Because
I
my
don't
problem
think
is
so.
in cemeteries. Like, non-cemeteries that have just.
I think with home funds, I don't quote me, they'll find it. But I believe home funds are not about the geographic location of the funds, or about that individual's income status. And so, but that's neither here nor there really to your question. Your question is, are we getting, there are really two questions. One, I think, about whether we need someone specifically to field calls about housing related issues. One is the bond calls, and the other is the information or expertise. I don't see that hold that.
There's so many programs that are out there, like over care programs, federal assistance scholars, and it's just like you don't end up with anyone that's going to functionally they're always like, you have this fire came in, all this
You did? What you find? I do it. I'm gonna get the next one done.
It's coming up in June, right? Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, and maybe
I love being a black woman. I wonder if I could wear one of them shirts. You probably would.
there are programs, there are opportunities. I mean, we work so many times with these and then they're able to,
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think there are a lot of areas where there's sort of specialized education shared. Whether it's utility bills, whether it's social services.
I don't know what's about it. I was doing
yeah. Anything they don't say, because they don't have what they're here to actually do.
Right.
And if I know I have a problem not utilize them, I know it's not going to be just me. That's fine. It was good information. Anything.
You said my mic always on. I'm gonna say what I want to say anyway.
That's not what? Oh, I don't feel respected by you. What it was done? I'm saying. No, I just said I wanted to meet with you. Okay.
Good evening. This meeting of your Pontiac City Council is hereby called to order. This is the 30th session of this 11th council from May 31st, 2022. We give the floor now to Councilman William Parker Jr. to introduce the invocation.
Thank you, Brother President. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to Rabbi in Training, Brother Matthew Brewer, and he's going to take it from there.
Yes, from Sheer Tikva congregation. Very honored that you invited me to do this invocation. I'd like to have a a moment of silence as we reflect on the troubling news that we've heard over the last few months and over the years, and the trepidation that it may have cost us all, and just our hearts go out to all the families that are affected by the many things that afflict this country and this world. Hashem, God of Abraham, of Isaac, and Jacob, I call upon you not for my favor, but the favor of my ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. On behalf of all who's gathered today, I pray for the agenda set before them. I pray for wisdom and patience for this assembly. We give thanks for the many blessings that you have poured in our lives and to the city. Thank you for the gift of life, the ability to fulfill our callings, for love, sustenance, and fellowship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you for the ability to embrace you and in our varied ways. Thank you for your boundless and gracious nature. May we have harmony in these proceedings today. Please invest in us a nefesh of openness, of cooperation when confronting with conflicting interests and differences of opinions. May we have confidence, yet be humble. May we engage in healthy and productive dialogue. Let us not be blind to the needs of the impoverished in our community and the needs of the community as a whole. In scriptures, you remind us not to put stumbling blocks before the blind and to use fair weights and measures in our commerce. You ask us to make systems of justice, to be righteous in our governance. May you help us ascend to these ethical tenets that you have gifted us. May we emulate your ways and walk humbly and joyfully with you today and every day. May we bring repair to this world in these troubled times. And let us all say amen.
Amen.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you for the moment of silence that preceded the invocation. Let us now remember those that our community has lost, those that are in your families, in your neighborhoods, and those near and far. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Present.
Goodman,
Present.
James,
Here.
McGinnis,
Present.
Nicholson,
Here.
Harker,
Present.
Rutherford.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Quorum being established and all members present and voting, can I please have a motion to approve this evening's agenda as presented?
I
So
make a
moved.
motion. Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Rutherford. That motion is before us. Could I please have a motion to amend the agenda to add a resolution, a city council resolution? It can come after the ordinance and before the finance resolution. And that city council resolution is appointing Garland Doyle as Pontiac city clerk,
I make
and then adding a discussion item that will come after the consent agenda, but before recognition of elected officials, medical marijuana provisioning centers as a discussion item. It's been moved to amend the agenda by Rutherford. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilman Nicholson. So that's the amendment of the agenda, adding those two items. One, a resolution, and the other, a discussion item, which we intend to be brief, really, as a status update. Any further discussion on that amendment?
Can you please say where the resolution's supposed to be going again?
The resolution would come between the existing 1 and 2. It would become the new number 2, and then all other items would go down correspondingly. Any discussion, questions, clarification on that amendment? Hearing nothing further, roll call on that amendment to the agenda. Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Is there any, now we're back to the main motion, approval of the agenda with that amendment incorporated. Is there any other changes, questions, clarifications? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Roll call on adoption and approval of the agenda as amended. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We'll proceed accordingly. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker. The consent agenda is before us. It includes 3 meeting minutes, 2 subcommittees, and 1 council meeting from last week. Those meeting minutes, not a debatable motion. Roll call on adoption of the consent agenda. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. We are now at the one discussion item of the night. The City Council has received a memo, an update from the Office of the City Clerk. I want to share. It's just a single copy, so take one and pass it down. It's the provisioning centers, the top ranked applications by district. As many in the community may know, there is the Cesar Chavez overlay, the downtown overlay, the Walton Boulevard, and then the non-overlay district. Those are the 4 respective districts. And thanks to the city clerk and many hardworking community members who have served on the Appeals Commission, these rankings are final and not subject to appeal. And the city clerk, their office released that in recent days. I want to acknowledge their work, their entire team, and the community members that served on the commission. That was grueling, very time-intensive work, and there was a lot handled in May alone. But when we came into office, there was a great deal of previous deadlock and delay and lack of clarity, and I'm grateful that we've seen a great deal of progress, clarity, and resolution. And City Clerk Doyle is preparing a special presentation for us, the council, and the whole community next week. But we just wanted to give you this brief status update before we have more in detail information. But I want to give the floor to Clerk Doyle. Any further context you'd like us to give, and any reflections in terms of the appeals process. So we now have a clearer path forward on the provisioning centers.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank Chairman Ford, Vice Chairman Wilson, and members. Excuse me. Goodness, their names just slipped my mind. Parath and Maley for all of their hard work over approximately a month. They spent anywhere from, I would say, 40 to 60 hours reviewing applications. So I definitely want to thank them for all their volunteerism. I want to also thank the mayor. As the council president had mentioned, there have been a lot of gridlock. But working with the new mayor, we were able to get the process moving and resolved. I'm sure that the applicants in the community appreciate that, and we do now have the final rankings. And as you mentioned earlier, there will be a full presentation about each of the top 5 ranked applicants by district, and as well as growers and processors who have received conditional approvals next week. Thank you.
And the presentation next week will go further into this, but as the community it may already be aware, there are further steps that are required. Not only is there stringent requirements that the state of Michigan puts on, but each of these entities will have to go through the city's planning commission for the required approvals. And for those non-overlay district locations, they'll also have to receive special exemption permits. And that requires a public hearing also at the Planning Commission. So there's an additional layer of scrutiny for non-overlay districts. So I just wanted to give this information to my colleagues, allow them to ask any preliminary questions or clarification before we have a more thorough presentation that the clerk's office is preparing for us for next week. Anyone wish to be recognized? Mayor Greimel.
I just want to commend Clerk Doyle for making sure that the administrative appeals process ran so incredibly smoothly. We had some resignations from the Medical Marijuana Commission, and Clerk Doyle was really diligent about bringing new appointees up to speed. And I don't know if the general public recognizes that we're talking about hundreds and in many cases thousands of pages of documents that are involved in these appeals. And so the task before Clerk Doyle and the task before the 4 medical marijuana commissioners was really immense and required a lot of time outside of the medical marijuana hearings, just reviewing documents, doing that homework, and required a lot of diligence and hard work on the part of the clerk. So I really appreciated Clerk Doyle's leadership in shepherding this process through. So kudos to you, Clerk Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor Greimel. Others that wish to be recognized? The updated memorandum also has addresses to be helpful, so you can see where geographically these locations are in question. And I look forward to seeing more information come at next week's special presentation. And of course, that's an opportunity for the community as well to get a sense of preliminarily what are we looking at as a community for these provisioning centers, of which ultimately the total is 20. And that number was assigned by you, the voters of Pontiac, Michigan. That's the outcome of the ordinance as it relates to medical marijuana provisioning centers. And as the clerk alluded to, we'll find out more about growers and processors, which are sort of a different category of sorts. Any further discussion?
I just have a
Councilman
question.
Parker, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother President. I just have a question in regards to, have we listed them? I noticed that for a couple, we go numerical numbers, but then in some, there's 3 3s and 2 2s or 1 1s, and will that cause a problem moving forward, since there's not 1 2 3 4 5?
Clerk Doyle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what that really represents is some applicants receive the exact same score. So, for example, in the downtown, there were 2 perfect scores, so there are 2 number 1s. So that's why it's not a 1 2 3 4 5. So it could only be the top 5. So there were 2 number 1s, and then there were 3 number 3s. They all received, in essence, the same score, the number 3s. So if you see the same number more than once, they receive the same exact score. So it is the top, in essence, 5. Does that clarify it for you?
Not really, but okay. It just seems to me that either you're 1 2 3 4 5. If you're tied, that means there still should be a 4, there still should be a 5, because they're all tied at 3. At least in my head, but I'm old school. I just believe in numbering. Numbering is 1 2 3 4 5. You can't be tied if you're doing numbers, and there's only supposed to be a total number. So I'm wondering if there's someone who could say you don't have you only did 3 in the downtown overlay and not 5, because you got 3 tied at 3. So where's 4 and 5?
Because we can only have the top 5. So for example, with the 2 that were number 1s, they received a perfect score of 130. So it's 2 number 1s. And then the number 3s, I think their score was a 126. So all 3 of those applicants received a 126. That's the top 5 right there. It cannot be no more than 5.
Okay, so there was nothing to break ties.
You would only break a tie in the case of if the 5th place would have been a tie, then it would have went in essence to a lottery.
And that was spelled out by ordinance?
By the ordinance.
Okay.
And some other municipalities, their ordinance spelled out that if there was a tie, then they essentially cancel one another out. It all depends on how that municipality's ordinance is built out.
So maybe I'm not making myself clear. These are the top 5 ranked applicants. If an applicant received the same score, then they will receive the same ranking. So if 2 people received a perfect 130, that does not mean that one is number 1 and one is number 2. They both are in essence number 1. And then that means there's only 3 spots left to make it the top 5. Is that cleared up?
It's better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And we are blessed that as a municipality, we didn't run into as much of that. Some other municipalities, like their bottom, there were multiple candidates that tied for that last slot, and then they had to go back to the drawing board to see how would they resolve that. So at least in that instance, that was already spelled out. Councilman Goodman?
So to sum that up in a little bit easier way, would you say that essentially the top 5 are essentially the top 5 scores just across the board?
Yes.
So pretty much whoever received 30, obviously 130 being, well, 30s being the top score, everyone who received the 30 obviously then fills in those spots as they are the top numbers. And then you'd begin to work your way down once you get lower scores.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? All right, with that, that concludes that discussion item, and we'll look forward to the special presentation at next week's regular city council meeting. We are now at recognition of elected officials. Anyone wishing to be recognized, current elected officials? We're now at agenda address. President Pro Tem Carrington, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. At this time, Ms. Gloria Miller.
Good evening. I'm glad I signed up because you brought up the Doyle nomination. Something that, sorry about that, something that should have been put on the agenda so that people would have known about it. I just want to make a comment. First of all, last time I was here, I mentioned that the prior budget meeting wanted to have it televised, but I never seen it. Maybe it was, maybe you guys can explain it to me at the end, but I never did see the last meeting, or did you have that particular meeting of that Thursday that I was here? Because I looked on cable and I didn't see it. Second of all, and I'm going to say this because I can, because I was on the council, it's ironic that you guys picked Mr. Doyle to be the clerk for 4 years, the council, well, the 2.5, whatever he's on it for. The past council, which was I was a part of the 10th council, did not make him as clerk, which leads me to believe that, interesting. As I say, I'm really not talking to the audience in here, I'm talking to the people in City of Pontiac. Pay attention. Everything that was here past is still here, certain people. Figure that out, people. The question I have for Mr. Doyle is, for the November election, it was never mentioned at this dais that there was discrepancies and there was wrong done in that election in November. And what happened with the Charter Commission? Why was those people eliminated? It was never explained to the citizens why they were eliminated in the first place. Those are questions that would be forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. That concludes our public address, agenda address.
All right, with that, we move to ordinance, item number 1 on the agenda. Ordinance to amend 110-42, currently codified as Municipal Ordinance 2369 as of September 10th, 2019, Phoenix Place Apartments. Ordinance amendments or adoption of new ordinances require 2 readings. The first reading was held last week, so we are now at that second reading. Mayor Grimel and Director Phillips, you have the floor.
Please take it away, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. As President said, we had the first reading last week, and this is an ordinance to amend, excuse me, the code 2214, which was codified on September 10th, 2019, 4 years later after the 3 parcels were combined into one. Just to reiterate, the ordinance was not updated to reflect the 1 parcel and to eliminate or show that the 3 had been combined. If there are any questions, I will address those, but otherwise I would ask that you move to approve this resolution, this ordinance amendment, I'm sorry.
Any discussion from the City Council? Councilman Rutherford.
Just so that we clarify, we are talking about the Phoenix
The Phoenix Place Apartments.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's
Yep, at 47251 Woodward Avenue, and they're still in the process of their pilot.
Okay. And my other question is, when does their pilot expire?
The pilot actually could go into 2060, but it could also go into perpetuity as long as there is still a, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Mr. Hood?
No, there, oh my God, I'm just losing, as long as there's a mortgage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No worries.
As long as there is a mortgage.
Other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, it was also discussed and presented on last week. Speakers list is exhausted. We are now at a roll call vote to approve the ordinance amendment for the Phoenix Place Apartments. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
Thank you.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to adopt the City Council resolution appointing Garland Doyle as Pontiac City Clerk?
I make the motion.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford and seconded by Councilman Nicholson. So that motion is before us. The city charter, as identified and written by the people of Pontiac, Michigan, assigns the responsibility to us, the Pontiac City Council, the appointment of the city clerk. In some municipalities, that clerk is a directly elected position. In others, it's an appointed or, if you will, hired position. And our previous city clerk, Sharika Hawkins, served for a number of years, and she was elected in the city in which she lives to be the Southfield city clerk, creating a vacancy over 4 years ago. I think the specific time was 4 years and 6 months ago. It was a very long period of time when the Pontiac City Clerk's office was vacant. The previous city council appointed Mr. Garland Doyle as interim city clerk, where he has served for nearly 4 years. He fulfills all the necessary requirements for experience and qualifications that are spelled out not only in our charter, but also the ordinances and orders that govern the city of Pontiac. We have now, over the last 6 months, as a city council, been able to see Mr. Doyle and his office's team in action and to be able to have a firsthand assessment of his capabilities. And so, in part because the agenda was lighter tonight, it made sense that now is the time for us to revisit a topic that was long overdue. And I'm grateful that we'll have the opportunity to provide more stability and clarity for him as a public service professional, his office, but also this council and our city government operations, because it was a unique asterisk that I'm sure has been a challenge for his office, this council, our city, and him as a human being. And I want to point out, as somebody who has experienced this before, we are right now making a decision about him and his permanent hiring, and I think it is so sad that at somebody's public hiring there would be some of those very vague bombs dropped to try and impugn somebody's character or reputation. This is a public decision at a public hearing, and it can be debated. You can disagree with it, but just put yourself in that position where it's very rare to have your professional status being litigated in the court of public opinion, broadcast for thousands to see. And so I will certainly give him an opportunity to speak to his experience in his years as interim city clerk and answer any immediate questions that this council and the public has. But I just want to put that out there in terms of recalibrating the stage that we were at. We were making a decision on somebody's professional career, and I hope that we will take it seriously accordingly, regardless of the outcome. I want to give the floor to Clerk Doyle, if he'd like to speak to his tenure and his prospects as being appointed as city clerk without the asterisk of the interim. Clerk Doyle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just say that I've been the clerk, as you alluded to, for almost 4 years. It was October 2018 that the previous council appointed me. At that particular time, the clerk's office budget was out of balance. I balanced the clerk's office budget. The clerk's office had a staffing shortage, and that's been in essence addressed. The issue with elections there have been a number of issues; those have gotten addressed. And I just really want to commend the staff that I have assembled in the clerk's office, because for the past past 3, because with the Charter Commission, that we have not had to canvass at the county. And I don't know how many people understand just how important that particular is, that there was no canvass in essence necessary, and that was because we made sure that all of the prep work for the election was properly done, and then precincts in essence balanced and so forth, like that. So I do really want to commend my staff for all their assistance, and I've tried to be transparent throughout the whole medical marijuana process. I will say that since being the clerk, I won't say I never wanted to be a politician, but whoa. I'll just in essence leave it like that, but I think my reputation speaks for itself. Thank you.
Legislative Counsel Sharp, can you provide some professional context for us in terms of your working relationship on behalf of the Pontiac City Council with Clerk Doyle, who does also ultimately report to the Pontiac City Council, which for the bulk of his tenure, that was with the prior council?
I would say that Clerk Doyle and I have worked very closely within the last 4 years. I commend Clerk Doyle for his, what do I want to say, his ability to overcome the obstacles that were put before him, and some of the negative comments that he had to endure while trying to do the right thing.
That's it.
And I think that you've made a great choice. Thank you.
Speakers list continues. Councilman Rutherford.
Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have had to deal with things the average person would have folded. You've never been, you never broken, you never compromised your ethics and your morals, and that speaks highly to me, because at the end of the day, you know who you are and who you have to answer to. So I respect you in so many ways, and it's not that many people I actually respect. So kudos to you. That's it.
Others that wish to have the floor. Pro Tem William Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. I just like to say that when you come into a new position, you really don't know staff totally, right? So you definitely have to get a chance to actually watch staff work. And I definitely had the opportunity just to sit back, watch how the clerk office run, watch how he handles and give me information when I ask him about information. I loved how the last election was run. So for me, he has the qualifications. And who wants to be interim for 4 years? I would have been left, just to be truthful. I would have I would not allowed anybody to make me interim for 4 years. So his dedication to this city stands above most. So I respect that from our clerk. Thank you.
Others that wish to have the floor. Since this was a late addition to the council agenda, it certainly would not be out of order if there was a motion to postpone for 1 week. So if there's further opportunity to deliberate or review, don't want to unintentionally force the council's hand to deliberate on this further, although it's been a matter of obviously discussion or debate in the city for many years. There was a question asked in terms of Charter Revision Commission. There were multiple candidates that had circulated petitions to get their name placed on the ballot. A number did not have enough signatures to make the ballot, and some, but not all, then chose to be write-in candidates. Clerk Doyle, was that handled by the Pontiac City Clerk's office, or was that handled by the Oakland County Department of Elections. I'm not familiar.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was handled by the Pontiac Clerk's office. And as it relates to that, we sent out communications to the people. I mentioned it at a number of council meetings, what the petition requirement was. I did a newsletter. In the newsletter, it stated what the petition requirement was. So the information, and as well as our social media platforms as well too. So the information, in essence, was out there. So unfortunately, if you didn't meet the petition requirement, then you weren't eligible to run. And what we also have done, which a lot of people do not know, and we did it with this past election and will continue to do it with the upcoming primary in general, is very important when you sign petitions, or if you're voting by absentee, when you sign your name, that you sign your name like you do on your driver's license, because that's what's in the qualified voter file. So a number of people in this age of where everything is kind of plastic, in a sense where you're just kind of scribbling your name and stuff like that with purchases and things like that, if you do that, we can't verify your signature, because that won't look like your signature on file. We take your absentee ballot envelope, and we in the computer is a statewide, is not just the Pontiac system, is the statewide Michigan qualified voter file. Your signature, in essence, pops up. If it does not match, we will contact, in essence, you, but a number of people don't understand that you do need to sign it like it is an official document. So sign it as if you were signing an official document.
Any further discussion on the motion before us? Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion and hearing no motion to postpone for 1 week. Speakers list is exhausted. We have before us the Pontiac City Council resolution appointing Garland Doyle as Pontiac City Clerk. Whereas the Pontiac City Council in the Pontiac City Charter is assigned the responsibility of appointing the position of Pontiac City Clerk, and whereas Mr. Garland Doyle has been serving as interim city clerk for the city of Pontiac for many years and has the necessary experience and qualifications required to fulfill the role of Pontiac City Clerk, now therefore be it resolved, the Pontiac City Council hereby appoints Mr. Garland Doyle as Pontiac City Clerk, and further resolved, the City Council acknowledges the public service of Mr. Doyle during his tenure as interim city clerk. With that, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yep.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Congratulations. We are now at, is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 2022, 2023?
I make the motion, but I got a question.
It's been
Support.
It's been moved by Rutherford, seconded by Nicholson. So we now have the motion before us. We had our public hearing earlier today, where not only was it the public hearing for the proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year, but also for the millage tax rates. And I'll give the floor to Councilwoman Rutherford for the first question while I'm arriving at the resolution, and I'll verbalize for the community's benefit, although you have access to our documents as well, what those millage rates are. Councilwoman Rutherford.
I was just going to ask you if you could say for the public what the millage rates were. That was my question. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the language of the resolution reads, whereas in accordance with city ordinance, a public hearing was held on May 31st, 2022 regarding the proposed tax rate, and whereas the city council shall not approve proposed tax rate until after the public hearing, and whereas by not less than 6 days after the notice of public hearing shall adopt a tax rate, now therefore, in accordance with the General Appropriations Act, the City Council of the City of Pontiac authorizes the following fiscal year 2022-2023 millage rates to be levied and collected on the general property of all real and personal property within the city. So I'm reading it as it states in the resolution. Charter, operating, 10.9132. Charter, capital improvement, 1.3639. State law, sanitation, 2.7281. Voted. Senior Services, 0.4839. Voted. Youth Center, 1.4519. The city treasurer is hereby authorized to impose a 1% property tax administration fee for all property taxes due, and a late penalty charge when applicable in conformance with Section 44 of Public Act 206 of 1893. So that's the motion that's before us. When things were spelled out as charter or state law or voted, that identifies how that millage originated. So those final two, the people of Pontiac determined that millage for senior services and youth center. And that's one unique deviation from the past. We are proposing here, depending on how the council makes a decision, that the full millage amount for youth recreation be levied. And that would be a change from the past. And so that would be sort of the most noteworthy departure from previous millage rate adoptions for the city of Pontiac. So that's the motion before us. Any discussion? Would the mayor or deputy mayor like to give us any context in terms of the strategic thought? And this is where we are at present, but anything you'd like, and we have the finance department staff want to hear further context?
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, and then I'll allow you to defer to the Treasurer and Finance Director as you deem appropriate.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So, Council, this is what we talked about, I don't know, maybe close to a month ago when I talked about the Hadley Amendment and different taxes and how they affected the council's overall budget. So what we are proposing is to levy these millages in the amounts that we are allowed to, and the city treasurer can give you more context and answer questions.
You have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor Grimo, Deputy Mayor, and City Council. Have any questions for me?
This is your first time before us. Introduce yourself to the community and the council.
I'm Portia Prater. I'm the City Treasurer.
And is there anything noteworthy that you'd like to identify for the council or the community as a whole in terms of the millage rates? It's essentially straightforward. And what would it mean in terms of real impact for the taxpayers?
Like you said, it's pretty straightforward. I will note that Deputy Mayor brought it to my attention the library wasn't listed. And the reason why the library isn't listed is because library is a separate entity, and they receive their millage table, their L 4029, and they have their own governing body that kind of decides, on their millage table. So that's why that's not listed. To further answer your question, last year the taxable value or the base value for the 2021 collective taxable value was about $863,000. This year there is, million. This year there is an increase by about 28%. So without doing, a lot of major math in terms of the decrease, or the rate of delinquency, we stand to collect with that 10.9132 millage for city operating approximately about $12 million. Again, that's not calculating and that's not factoring into that calculation the rate of delinquency once the tax year fiscal year ends.
And on follow-up, do you have that dollar amount that what arrived the current fiscal year from that operating 10 point?
The dollar amount? Oh, yeah, so it's in your packet. So it's going to be the 2022 taxable value. It's the 1.1 million. So that's the number that I used to do the calculation. So I kind of just basically, did a formula, subtracted that last year's value to this year's value, which gave me my, rate of increase or decrease, if you will. Yeah, so what's projected for the general fund is about 8.1 million.
Other discussion?
Just a
Pro Tem William Carrington.
Thank you for the floor, President. Just one quick question. So just so I understand the Hadley rollback. So did we increase from last fiscal year to this year?
Yeah, I'll defer to
So, are you asking, can you clarify your question for me?
The deputy mayor talked about the Hadley rollback. So I'm trying to, and he said that you're actually asking the citizens to pay the full what we can get
Correct.
For our taxes. So,
Yes.
what was the past current fiscal year number of when we went out for our millages? I mean,
So last year's millage, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but last year the city's operating millage was, the current year. The current year is 11.0503. What we're asking for this year is 10.9132. So that's the maximum that the city can ask for. That is where the Hadley rollback comes into effect. As the treasurer indicated, there was a significant growth in the taxable value. The way the Hadley works, and Deputy Mayor, please, correct me, the way the Hadley Amendment works, it limits exactly how much revenue we can generate. And so because we saw this significant increase in taxable value, in order for us not to see a sizable or a proportionate increase in our revenue, the Hadley Amendment kicked in, and it actually had the effect of lowering our millage rates. And so that's why the actual millage rates for this year are lower than the prior year, because we're limited. The maximum rate that we can levy is limited under the Hadley Amendment.
And one follow-up question: even with the Hadley rollback, will the city still bring in more this fiscal year when it comes to operating taxes?
Yep. So we are projecting a little more than a 3% increase in the actual revenue growth. Some of that is just what's allowed for inflation and allowable increases in taxable value. But we are in terms of the actual dollars that we're projecting from these millages for general fund and for the other funds, the other millages, I should say, we are projecting a net increase in that, in those numbers, in those property tax numbers.
All right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Stevens?
Councilman Carrington, doing very, very simple math. So taking the 2022 taxable value, looking at the millage rate that we are proposing for this year, roughly $12 million is what it would bring in. Using last year's millage rate, that would be roughly $12.2 million. And using the original authorized millage rate, that would be approximately $13 million. So you can see the effect that the Hadley Amendment has had on the total amount of general fund dollars that the city is able to collect.
All right, thank you.
Would it be the finance director and treasurer's professional opinion that the people of Pontiac will soon want to consider whether by their vote they contemplate an override of those Hadley limitations? Because each fiscal year we're going to see a continuing erosion of the capacity of these millage rates, correct?
That very well could occur. As I mentioned earlier, we did see a sizable increase this past year. I don't know, a lot of that I would assume was tied to the Amazon project coming fully online. Don't know if we'll see that in the upcoming year, upcoming years. But to the deputy mayor's point, we see the fact that because we saw such a sizable increase in our taxable value, the Hadley Amendment really undercut our ability to see a corresponding increase in the net revenues that we would collect. And I think the treasurer pointed out we saw about a 28% jump in our taxable value. And as I mentioned, we're only projecting because of the Hadley Amendment, we're only projecting a little more than a 3% increase in the actual property tax revenues.
Other discussion? The motion we have before us is the resolution to approve the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 2022-2023. This is a step that's required for the city to be able to incorporate these millages onto the property tax bills that any of us will receive. The the summer payment, July 1st is the new fiscal year, and so that's when sort of the summer tax bill statement window begins. But due to recent years' changes, taxpayers have until August 31st. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but they have until August 31st of this year to pay without penalty. In the past, it was until July 31st. So that's, I think, a welcome change to avoid undue penalty, especially when there's sometimes limitation on when those tax bills actually get to us taxpayers. It gives us more of that buffer. Anything else you'd like to elaborate?
Yeah, and I can speak to those dates just a little bit more, just to make sure that we're completely clear. So
Please do.
July 1 is where the summer property taxes are levied, and they are due August 31st. That's the summer season only. And you can pay through that date without penalty on summer only.
Well
So
said.
then December 1, winter tax bills are levied and sent out and are due. And you can continue to pay your summer as you can pay your winter through the February 28th date, but you will pay, you will pay penalty on the summer portion that went unpaid from that August 31st date through to that, February 28th date.
Understood. And Councilwoman Rutherford.
So I just want to know, is there a way, if people are having a problem paying their property tax or paying the taxes, do we have any programs set in place where we can make arrangements so that they don't have a bigger bill later on down the line?
There isn't anything set up with the city of Pontiac where a taxpayer can come in and request arrangements to pay property taxes.
I understand.
If they, want to do maybe like a budgeted amount that they pay monthly, kind of like their own, personal arrangement where if they have fixed finances, they can pay $50, every few weeks or month, but that's on their own, will. But the city of Pontiac doesn't really have anything for anyone that is not a veteran or a senior citizen to defer taxes or to make an arrangement.
Mayor Grima, I guess this is a question for you. Is there any way that we could set up a program like that? Because we have people that are first-time home buyers that probably have never known how to pay it, haven't budgeted in, so we want to make sure they're educated and that they don't lose their houses based on property taxes.
Absolutely. If you're talking about an educational program,
Yes.
absolutely. And I think it's a really great suggestion. I know that the county has done things like that over the years, and we certainly should be doing the same kind of community outreach. So we will work to set up some public events to get the word out, and I'll work with council leadership and any individual council person who's interested to make sure that our executive staff is putting the pieces in place to get the word out effectively.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will like to add to that, though, citizens that are struggling paying their property taxes, there are outside, agencies that are willing to help. So they can start with their local DHS office or, like local office.
And I understand that. It's just sometimes people don't know how to get to the resources. So I just feel like we're doing everything else to make sure we make this the communication hub for the city of Pontiac. We're doing small business. We're doing everything else we could do. First time, I just feel like it's important that we do that here too, because oftentimes people lose their property from being misinformed and misguided. And if we do this, this is an opportunity to say, this is what you need to do, this is how you do it, and we just teach. I always learn by example or by actually taking a class. So I'm just using me as the blueprint. So that's why I asked that. But
And you're absolutely right, just because we're the first line of,
Right.
We see the taxpayers downstairs in the tax office, and a lot of them do not have the knowledge of, how to pay property taxes,
you.
what it means for their property taxes to be in escrow.
Right.
So we get a lot of duplicate payments, people paying and then the mortgage company paying. So I would be in agreement with some sort of program.
Thank you so much.
And it's worth noting for those that could potentially benefit from it, once taxes are delinquent to the point that the Oakland County Treasurer's Office is administering past due tax obligations, they have multiple resources and counselors that can assist homeowners, property owners that need help facilitating situations with payment of delinquent property taxes as well.
That is right. And if I may, my
Yes,
last
you have the floor.
comment, I would like to reiterate the payment methods, because a lot of people don't know the different ways to pay their property taxes. You can pay by phone, you can pay online, come in, utilize our office, but a lot of times the lines are wrapped around, depending on the time that the citizens are coming in to pay. But you can utilize our drop box, no cash though. And I think those are it. I believe those are our methods. We're looking, go ahead.
No cash in the Dropbox, but cash in the office?
Yes, cash in the office, no cash in the Dropbox. Dropbox, money orders, cashier's check, personal checks only.
Other further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. We are at the adoption of the resolution to approve the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 2022, 2023. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes. Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We are now at communications. The Pontiac Point of Hope 2022 is happening June 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 313 East Walton Boulevard. Michigan Secretary of State has a driver's license restoration clinic on June 10th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Flagstar Strand Theater, 12 North Saginaw. Art Fish Fun happening June 11th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Bodette Park, 786 Orchard Lake Road. And the Power Company Kids Club and Deputies for Kids have Fun in the Field July 6th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Aaron Perry Park. Clerk Doyle, communications from your office.
So this is the, thank you, Mr. President, the schedule of the upcoming budget hearings. So tomorrow, there will be a budget hearing starting at 3 p.m., which will be focused on the Finance Department. That consists of income tax, Treasury and Finance, HR, which I believe the mayor is proposing as a standalone department now, IT and communications, and then both on Wednesday, June 8th and Thursday, June 9th from 5 until 7, they'll be focused on proposed budget amendments. That's where the council will have the opportunity to make any adjustments to the budget.
Thank you. We are now at public comments. President Pro Tem Carrington, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Is it Andrea Manns? And please forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. Andrea, thank you.
Hello. Hello, everybody. How you doing? I want to revisit the building on Highland. I brought that up about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the mayor said that they gave the people to the end of June to present whatever things that they needed. My problem is this, is 3 years it's been sitting there. 3 years the grass hasn't been cut. 3 years pests have been over there going back and forth. Just recently, last year, there's been more dumping. This year there's dumping. My neighbor on the other side said that she smelled something dead over there. So don't nobody know what it is. We don't know if it's people or if it's animals or what. I've seen deer. I've gotten rid of several raccoons, and I just seen one the other day running around my garage. I'm pretty sure it came from over there. And it's like, I'm just wondering why they get so much time when they've had 3 years to do something about it. You know, it doesn't take anything around Pontiac that long to get through a court system to get your stuff together if you got to cease and desist. And it's annoying. It's an eyesore. It's filthy. The grass is like this tall. It's taller than the fence. And then the grass is even turned into trees. So it's been sitting there for quite a while. And I'm tired of it. My neighbor's tired of it. I'm pretty sure anybody driving up and down the street is tired of it because it doesn't make sense. I mean, because when our grass grows, we got notices. What is it, 8 inches? And we'll get citations or tickets. And we're paying taxes and we're living there. So why do we have such short notice to do anything about it? I might as well let my grass grow over the house. I mean, because if they're not going to get penalized or nobody's going to come and cut their grass, then so why should I cut mine? So that's all. And the groundhog. All of these groundhogs are multiplying like roaches. They're everywhere. They're eating the ground. You cut your grass. You're stepping in holes that they made. They climbing up under your car, eating the wires. And, of course, that's a breeding ground over there for everything and anything. So that's all I have.
Well, thank you. Ms. Darlene Clark.
I live in her district as well, and what I'm here to talk is the same thing that she's talking about. Pontiac consists of 47% renters. These renters are getting away with so much that homeowners cannot get away with. Homeowners pay their taxes. We entrust the city council, including the city mayor, to look out for our interests. Our interest is to make sure that our children, our families, anyone that comes into our domain is safe. And like she said, we got raccoons, we got oh my God, cats is going freaking everywhere. And they multiplying like freaking popcorn. These landlords, out-of-state landlords, these people that own these properties, my God, my neighbors, 5 of my neighbors came to City Hall on Friday to complain about 2 renters on our street. They have let their grass grow almost to the window. Now, someone cut the grass, but they didn't cut around the fence. They cut the center. So you have everything else growing up, like she said, into trees, into weeds. But then that's cutting out the people who's taking care of their own homes and take care of their yard. I pay for lawn service. I pay for someone to treat my grass. I pay for the upkeep of my house. But most important, I pay my taxes. And if I don't pay my taxes, I have a notice of foreclosed on there. Come on, you guys, help us out. We should not have to beg. The citizen Pontiac should not have to beg their council people to take up on themselves to walk through these neighborhoods and see what we are living in. During the day, it's nice, but during the nighttime when they come out, oh my God, a skunk will trap you in your house. A raccoon bigger than a cat would keep you from going to the front porch. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This is a plea to the people that we elected as citizens to help us out. We rely on you, and we tell you now, if you want everybody knocking on your door, it doesn't have to be like that. You're not blind. You're all adults, and you can see what's going on. Get hard on these landlords. Get hard on these tenants. Let me tell you what happened. My husband was driving into our street. One of the renters that we've been complaining, our neighborhood's been complaining about all year, she had her 2-year-old child in the street, in the middle of the street. If it had not been from a car that was behind, kept blowing at my husband, he probably would have hit that 2-year-old kid. And the mother is sitting on the porch and not doing anything. Now, is this what we want Pontiac to become? A breeding ground for renters and landlords to get away with it?
Your time.
Thank you. Ms. Jean Matthews.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, President McGinnis, President Pro Tem Carrington, council members, Mayor Grimel, Deputy Mayor Stevens, and members of the audience. My name is Jean Matthews, and I'm president of the Harrington Hills Residents Association, which I have been president almost 20 years. I'm ready to give it up, but no one takes it on. However, tonight, I just want to share some information because I think it's time to pass the information that we have achieved over the number of years. Our association, which began over 65 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, consists of an executive board, street captains, and the dues-paying members. Street captains are responsible for passing out our quarterly newsletters, reporting concerns to our Councilman Parker. We welcome new residents by mailing them a welcome letter about our association and also by visiting them door to door. And we invite them to join our membership. Our Neighborhood Watch program, which really is called the Nosy Neighbor program, helps us to keep a clean and safe neighborhood, and we thank them. We have a cleanup crew who continues to keep our water drains. I don't know if anyone is here remembers about 25 years ago over in Harrington Hills, we had a very flood due to the water drains, and I can't remember all the details, so we try to keep our drains clean and our streets clean. Tonight I want to especially thank the Girl Scouts of 75911. Our campaign continues throughout the month of May. And the Girl Scouts of 75911 helped us to clean up our streets with their leaders, troop leaders, Dr. C. Barthel and Mary Trice, and many thanks to Mary Trice's granddaughters as well. And thank you, Councilman Parker, for all your support in making sure that the code enforcement officer did get out there without concerns. We thank you for that. We also have a partnership with Harrington Elementary School where we have adopted 2 kindergarten classes. Tonight, my message is that I can't keep this all to myself and to ourselves because we think that we have the best active association in the city of Pontiac.
That's it.
So tonight, our campaign theme is hope plus action, but let the campaign continue. I would like to share with anyone who is listening to my voice to be able to call me directly at 248-396-0464 so that we can share this information. There are a lot of people who may not know what to do, but we have the information. If you would like to start a block club or even an association, you may call me at 248-396-0464, or my email is jom776@yahoo.com. Thank you for your attention. Let's continue the campaign, building a stronger and better community and a city together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Ms. Tamika Ramsey.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to move this mic up because that's one of my complaints. When we're at home, sometimes y'all forget to turn y'all mics on and conversations happen and we can't hear. So if you can just be more aware of that so that we can know who's saying what. Thank you. I wanted to come up here because I have not been up here for a while. To say thank you to the residents and voters of the city of Pontiac for electing me to be a part of the Charter Commission. I am excited, very excited. I ran on transparency and involving the community and making sure that every decision that is made involves the residents. And I know that means doing a lot of education because people don't necessarily know what's in the charter and what can be in the charter. And so I commit to making sure that I am doing as many coffee hours and talking to people and being as available as possible when it comes to the charter. My goal is not to change things or make changes that I think need to be made. It is to educate the residents and make sure that all changes are what the residents want, because this is the voice of the people. I also wanted to thank the mayor and Lynette Phillips for working and partnering with T. Ramsey and Associates to do the Small Business Town Hall. T. Ramsey and Associates has been around since 2015. I have been doing most of my work in the city of Pontiac for free because I know that many residents who have a small business need the support and don't have the funding. I do not have a contract with the city at this time. I'm trying to though, but I don't. And when I do, I will be very transparent. If I do, very transparent about it. But I just wanted to put that out there that we can't penalize business owners who work really hard when there are gaps in the city and doing work for free, sacrificing their own time and their own personal funds. And then if and when there is an opportunity to work with the city or any other business within the city to be judged harshly or condemned. I also want to say that we are talking, when we talk about small businesses, I know a lot of talk has been talking about loans. Pontiac is not where Detroit is. Our small businesses need grants to start off with. So if we can look at that and make sure that we're investing in our community the way that Detroit invested in their community. I tell people all the time, Pontiac is in Detroit. And y'all stay here, so y'all should know that more than anybody. And just with my last couple of minutes, I just wanted to give my daughter a shout out. She is amazing. And the residents are too. And sometimes renters just need some support and assistance, and we should do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Ms. Gloria Miller.
Good evening. I'm back. And I'm speaking on experience and coming down here for 25 years, so I know the city. When I speak, I have walked the walk and talked the talk. First, Mr. McGinnis, sitting in that seat, you up for debate. That's part of the job. You got to have thick skin to separate. Every 7, and even the clerk and Miss Monique, it's political. It's politics. It's fair game. Remember that. Everything is. Everything you do. That's the way it was with me when I was there. That was the way it was before the 9th council, the 8th council that I sat down here with, the 7th council that I sat down here with. Ask any of them. They all got hit. It's part of the job. You got to have thick skin. And what makes it so ironic is that I'm probably the first person to ever come back and tell you what the old did and what the new is doing. No one ever did that, because guess what? I served with dignity. I took care of my resident. And by the way, I can go down each one of your districts and tell you what's wrong with each one of them, because I ride it every day. By the way, ongoing in South Boulevard, trash just sitting out there. Just a big bunch of trash still sitting there. I can go on to the other district. Walton Boulevard, look a mess. The grass has gone to 7, 8 inches, which is where I want to go next. Mayor, I know you got I was here at that budget meeting about these code enforcement. Code enforcement alone should make Pontiac rich. Rich. Because when I used to sit up there on the 10th council, back in the day, Councilman Water used to speak. The mayor made the council deputized them so they can go out in their district and write tickets. Maybe that's something you need to consider, because right now, this city is growing up grass so bad, people have to literally come out in the street to get out in the parkway. And that's every district. Everyone coming down Featherstone today. The grass is so tall, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. The city looks it's sad. And we got residents here, it's really, really good people. I know them, but they are sick of this. And code enforcement, from the time they get in the door to the time they leave, when they get through writing tickets, Mayor, we should have all kind of money. We're looking at it every day. Animals, all over the place. All over the place. Mr. Carrington, I want to say this before I get done. CDBG fund, before I left council, I appropriated $10,000 to the Pontiac Panthers. Please tell me, check into that, see if they're getting the money, because I'm being told the money may go to administration. I do not want that money to go to administration. I want it to go to the kids and the team. They have no business out on that street hustling for money. That look bad for us as a city. We got a mayor here. Mayor, you doing the youth services. Get in touch with someone with the Pontiac Panthers. Help these kids out. It's a lot of kids want to play, but they don't have the money and the resources. That is sad. We are too big for that. If we want to help the people, that's what I'm all about, is helping. We need to help these youth get on these teams, because that money that I appropriated should, Mr. Carrington, I know you check with it. I think you're still on that board or whatever. Make sure that goes to the kids and their uniforms and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Mr. Larry Jasper.
Thank you, guys. So today I want to talk about the Hadley Amendment. Most people don't know that was a state law put in place to save or protect the citizens from higher inflation prices. And right now you've seen real estate go up quite rapidly. Unfortunately, if you adjust the Hadley Amendment and increase the tax base, the people who are going to be affected the most is the renters. 80% of the people who live in the city of Pontiac right now rent their houses. So you know it's always top down, right? The city may tax them more, but guess who's going to end up paying the price? The renter. So if you can't afford $200 or $400 additional per month, I suggest that you don't increase that and let the Hadley Amendment work. And just for everyone's personal information, I'm in real estate. I know it backwards and forwards. We've seen a growth in real estate prices, but we're looking at a recession coming in around the corner. So those prices may adjust. And if you've ever adjusted taxes on a residential housing, it takes you 2 years to get it returned back to normal, because they don't want to take back the taxes. Where you have a problem with taxes is like the Bloomfield Park property, which is called now Bloomfield Village. That was a 425 agreement, which had a set tax rate for the city of Pontiac. The ex-mayor disbanded that 425 agreement and accepted property from Bloomfield Township, in which case gave them a 35-year tax abatement. Those are where you should be getting your taxes. United Wholesale Mortgage pays a ton of taxes. They didn't take any benefits from the city, and they employ a ton of people, plus they pay a lot of city tax. So if you want to raise income, you have to look at that. And the other thing you need to look at is the GSA. You don't know what the partnership does. Mr. Pro Tem Carrington asked for something in writing. Where's it in writing? How many taxes do they pay? They don't pay a dime. That's why you own the Phoenix Center, and you lease it for 100 years. It's not because you have any rights to it. From a real estate standpoint, you have no rights. You can't mortgage it properly, can't use it as equity, you can't do anything with it. But you do own it, so you don't pay any taxes on it. Isn't that great? So the tax revenue needs to be done in a way that's going to benefit the people, not hurt the people. The citizens of this city deserve to be treated properly, and you need to know the truth, the facts of the matter. That's why I've talked about the GSA being canceled and bringing in little cities, because we provide social justice you don't get from these people. Who are the counterparts to that particular contract? Does anybody know? I haven't heard an answer from anybody. I haven't got an email, a phone call. Nobody said it. And because you can't say it, because it's all hidden underneath LLCs. The reason that this township gave away the property on Telegraph to Pontiac was so it would get rid of legal documents that were set in their office, the township. Once they don't own the property, they can discard it and they can shred it. You now have no evidence to go back and get. It was never done to benefit this community. And I don't know what Amazon is paying on taxes. I understand it was a lease. I haven't gone into investigation, but I want to look at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jasper. That concludes our public comment. President McGinnis.
We are now at closing comments. Mayor Tim Gramel, you have the floor.
Thank you, President McGinnis. Wanted to first touch on some of the comments that were made during public comment. I agree with everything you're saying, Ms. Mann, about the importance of the city properly addressing the blight at 404 Highland. When I indicated that they had until the end of June, that's not about mowing their lawn or properly taking care of the outside of the property. What I was referring to is they had until the end of June in terms of providing documents regarding the certificate of occupancy issue and the building permit issue. In terms of the outside problems with that property and the blight, including the tall grass, we are immediately seeking enforcement of the city's code, and so hopefully that will be reflected soon, much sooner than the end of June, in terms of them properly taking care of that property. In terms of the broader concerns with landlords and the blight that they're creating, we strongly agree that landlords are responsible for, frankly, most of the blight in the community, much more so, generally speaking, than owner-occupied housing. We are currently working on some draft amendments to city ordinance to make sure that we're strengthening some of the regulations for landlords so that we can improve the accountability for landlords in the community. So within the next couple weeks, we'll be bringing some of those amendments before council so that we can tighten up the city's ordinance. But we're looking to strengthen that ordinance to both protect tenants and to empower tenants to stand up against slumlords, but also to make sure that we have an easier time enforcing city code against landlords, including regulations regarding the registration and certification of landlord properties. I also want to just thank Ms. Matthews for her longtime leadership in the community. I did not know that it had been 20 years, but that does not surprise me because certainly she's been the leader of the Harrington Hills Neighborhood Association for as long as I've been involved, going back, I don't know, I guess 16 years now or something. So I guess if I had thought about it, I would have guessed maybe it had been as long as 20 years. But really appreciate your amazing leadership. Also, I want to thank Ms. Tamika Ramsey for partnering with the city for the town hall. Your generosity in devoting so much of your time and energy to benefit the community without being financially compensated is truly remarkable. But I also understand that the city ultimately longer term will get what it pays for. And so your point about seeking some compensation in the future is not lost on me. And I know that there's been some discussion about what might make sense in that regard. Obviously, any proposal along those lines will have to come before the city council for approval, as you know. But I'm so grateful for your pro bono provision of services in connection with the town hall about a month ago now, and it was a really successful event because of the hard work that you put into it. So thank you so much. I also wanted to thank a variety of other community partners. We had several really great Memorial Day events in the community yesterday. I want to thank Eileen Andragna of VFW Post 1370 and both Commander Carr and Sandra Carter of the American Legion Cook Nelson Post number 20 on Auburn for sponsoring yet again a great Memorial Day event at the Pontiac Veterans Memorial at Perrymount Cemetery, which, as always, was a great way to honor the hundreds of veterans from Pontiac who gave their lives in service to their country. I also want to thank John Cohassi for the event that he organized at Oak Hill Cemetery to commemorate and honor the Union Army war dead from the Civil War. It was a really great event with some Union Army reenactors. So we had a couple of really great events in the community to really commemorate Memorial Day as it was designed to be commemorated in terms of honoring those who gave their lives in service to the country through the military. But I would argue that an equally important, if not even more important event happened here at City Hall yesterday as part of the Stomp Out Violence event to really try to continue to galvanize our community in opposition to street crime and street violence and really encourage people to de-escalate conflict and to handle conflict in a more constructive way rather than resorting to violence. And I want to specifically thank Delia Sharp and Identify Your Dream Foundation for their amazing work in bringing so many community leaders together to organize that really successful event. The turnout was phenomenal, and it was just a really powerful, moving event. And it's those kinds of events that are going to be so crucial as we continue to set community norms that violence is never an acceptable approach or solution to resolving conflict. So many, many thanks to all of our great community partners.
Thank you. Now for closing comments, Clerk Garland Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me. First, I would like to thank the council for naming me the clerk. I appreciate the trust that in which you've put in to me. As many of you, I guess it's a bittersweet day for me. As many of you, I stepped out of this chambers a number of times, and today my father made his transition. And my father taught me how to be a public servant. He spent over 40 years with the city of Detroit with a variety of capacities, a man of high integrity. If I can be anything like my father, I would be a very good man. So I just want in essence to say that. Many of you also know this has been a very trying year. For me, just a few months ago, my mother passed away. But a good friend of mine said to me that I need to appreciate my parents because very rare do you get two parents that both showed you unconditional love. So today I celebrate my father and the unconditional love that him and my mother both, in essence, gave to me. And yes, I'll just say that. I also want to mention that there is a Charter Commission meeting this coming Monday at 6 p.m., so that's June 6th. At 6 p.m. will be the first official Charter Commission meeting right here in the City Council chambers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir, and our sincere condolences on this solemn day for you and your family. Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford, District 1.
Good evening. When we all Americans are treated as equal, no matter who we are or whom we love, we are more than free. That was said by President Barack Obama. Tomorrow starts a month that some don't celebrate, but I do loud and proud, and that's Pride Month. I celebrate it because I have relatives that stood in the closet for so long and died not being able to love someone freely and openly. I celebrate it because I have friends who are a part of the LGBTQY and Z community who to this day is often scrutinized and criticized because they simply want to love. Love is a beautiful thing. Love is a powerful thing. Love can change attitudes, animosity. Love can change this room if we wanted to. The question is, do we act, speak, and do things in love? There are moments when we are on this diocese that we do things out of emotion, and how does that actually serve to the best of this community? There are times when we do stuff out of fear because we don't want to get left out, and how does that serve best to this community? There are times when we say stuff because we want to be petty, and the question is, how does it serve best to this community? And so I have been practicing walking and actually talking in love recently because I want to be loved unapologetically. And so for this month, instead of trying to come at somebody and take digs and be subliminal and make posts, you know, things that people often do, let's practice love. Let's love our neighbors. I love my haters. I speak to them every day. Hi, haters. Because at the end of the day, it gives me power to empower the least of these. On the second note, June the 24th, 2022 will be the meeting for the the District 1 meeting. It will be at the Alley Cat. All is welcome. And yes, there will be real food. Lastly, and most importantly, when you walk out this door today, remember that you are an example. Be the example that you want to see in this community and watch this community change. And as always, I wish you love, peace, and soul. Good evening.
District 2 Councilperson Brett Nicholson.
Good evening. We've got our District 2 advisory group meeting has changed locations. Just want to remind people we are not going to be at Goldner Walsh, fourth Monday of every month, 7 o'clock. This month we are going to be at Indian Village Park. We are doing a vision session about what we want to see change in our park. So please come with ideas, and there will be food. Feel free to bring food of your own as well to share with the group. We also have our District 2 wide garage sale, which is Friday and Saturday. So all of District 2, which includes the Dawson's Mill Pond, Pioneer Highlands, Seminole Hills, Indian Village, not Stonegate because they have an association and unfortunately cannot participate. And then all of the Liberty Street neighborhood. Please do come out and check out our stuff and get it out of our hair. Thanks.
So since there's time, repeat that garage sale information?
Yeah, sorry. It's going to be the Friday and Saturday, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. How you'll know that a house is participating is they have a red garage sale sign with a happy face balloon. At any of the garage sale stops, you can pick up a map. Yeah, I'm selling stuff. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff.
Councilman Mikhail Goodman, hailing from District 3.
Good evening, everyone. So the first thing I want to say, which I think has been a very important topic tonight, is talking about tenants. I think there's a very important couple of things to be said. Tenants pay taxes through rent. Tenants do not just live in the city without contributing whatsoever. Because they live with someone who obviously owns that property, their rent goes to that person to pay the property taxes, which means that while we may have some individual tenants who may not be the best renters in the city, tenants are not the problem overall because they are not the ones in charge of the property in which they habitate on. We talk about blight very oftentimes, and we keep throwing it around at the general tenant population as if these homes and buildings are not owned by people who tend to also own multiple homes and buildings that they're also not taking care of. So based on multiple statements today in these council chambers amongst everyone, and then also in different meetings, we have to recognize that a couple of different things. Our residents are, many of which are disadvantaged in some way. So when it comes to taking care of properties in many forms, they are not capable of doing so, or they do not have the resources and ability to do so. Not only that, we have to recognize that, again, people who own their properties are in charge of maintaining their property and having the responsibility with the city to do so. And for that reason, we have to very much be aware of the role in which tenants play when it comes to blight and the condition of their own rental, what is within their ability, and also what is simply their responsibility, whether or not the tenant wants to be a good tenant or not. How much of that responsibility falls on the landlord and on the property owner, who is the one who is responsible to the city, and making sure that the city follows through on the people who we have a contract with, and not punishing people who may not be in the position to do something, or again, simply, they are not the person who we have a contract with. And when we have these conversations about tenants in the city, very often we talk about the city being a majority renter as if it's a problem. We talk about renters in a very negative light. I sit on this council. I am a renter. I am a tenant in the city. I grew up in Section 8 housing. My family has only ever been tenants in this city. My family, besides my dad's side with the one house that we own on the south side, my family has never owned a home in the city. My grandma sure did take care of every place that we lived at. I take care of the building that I live in currently. But regardless of the fact of whether or not we are in the positions to do these things, we have to recognize that there is a person or a group or an apartment management company who is responsible. And we have to begin to be realistic and act accordingly with where that responsibility is. Other than that, I have a community meeting next Friday, the 10th at 5:30. It will be somewhere in City Hall. The room has not been decided yet, but it will be next Friday at 5:30 to 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representing District 4, Councilwoman Kathleen James, your closing comments.
Okay, I'm going to give back most of my time tonight. The one thing that I do want to mention is that we are entering into the period of time where many people start buying fireworks and start using them. Fireworks are good, when they are done in a timely manner. But in the city of Pontiac, a lot of people are kind of going above and beyond. And I would like to, I'm mentioning this because we need to consider that we do have people in our city who are not well, who are elderly. We have people who have animals that when their neighbors are constantly setting off fireworks, not necessarily on a holiday, but it just is really in bad taste to do that. So I would like to ask everyone to please be considerate of your neighbors, be considerate of the people on your street. And let's, we need to be able to contain the use of fireworks in our community because it's out of hand, and it's to the point, I think, where it really is becoming a problem for our elderly, for people who own dogs and that kind of thing. So I want to just give everyone a reminder to please use fireworks responsibly. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Representing District 5, Councilman William Parker Jr.
Thank you, Brother President. Before I go any further, Clerk Doyle, I just want to say our prayers and our condolences go with you as you deal with the loss of your father. We know, for those of us who've lost both of our parents, I understand what you're going through. Know that our prayers are with you. I wanted to remind everybody that for those of you who celebrated your memorial holiday yesterday, that there was 14 acts of gun violence that took place just yesterday in this country during a holiday. Please keep those people lifted up in your prayers. I want to thank those in District 5 who continue to be involved and engaged and active in making sure that the issues of the district get resolved. I want to thank the previous council for coming down and sharing with us, because one of the things that we discussed even today in our budget meeting was how do we put teeth and a scope and responsibility into our wild animals and control of animals process. I know we're working that in regards to our budget process, and certainly as we drive through the communities, we recognize that grass is out of control. I usually try to drive through all of the portions of District 5 at least once a week, and so I know there's a lot of places that look like and we have reported some of those, or most of those, as we've gone through to code enforcement and DPW, so I know they're working on those. But even as we work on those, I want to thank those who do call in and just share with you, if you call in and you don't leave a number to call back to, and I call the number that you called to, please answer, or know that if you don't answer and your voicemail is full, I can't leave you a message as to what's happening. So please, as you call, we try to get everything answered. I have a log of every call I've gotten since January 4th, and I know who's called and who haven't. I have emails. I usually respond to emails. Make sure I copy everybody on every email I respond to. But we know that there's issues that are going on in the city. Everything didn't happen since January 4th and is not going to be resolved. So we are working diligently to resolve all of those issues. So please remember that everything is getting done according to the priority that they have been established. I want to remind everybody that June 9th, we will have our district CDC meeting. It is normally held in the Lions Den in City Hall, and that's where we will be. I encourage each and every one of you who's a part of the district that if you want to know what we're doing, come see what we're doing and hear about what we're doing and become involved in what we're doing, because we're trying to continue to move, and I want to make sure I say continue to move the district forward. We are trying to continue to build on what happened before we got there and to continue to do that which needs to be done. There's a lot of things that we can work on. There's a lot of things that we made people aware of, and we're now going to allow them an opportunity to repair some of those things. And with that, I say good evening, District 5. Have a blessed and glorious day, and remember that how you get your attitude determines your altitude.
Representing District 6, President Pro Tem William A. Carrington.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Actually, I will keep this short. I'd like to at least address our previous councilwoman. I actually thank you for bringing that to my attention. But we did receive, on behalf of the Pontiac Panthers, we did receive a letter stating how to receive those funds. So again, I thank the past council for giving that particular organization those funds. And it's a 35-year-old organization, and they never have received anything from the city. So I definitely thank you for what the last council done for the Pontiac Panthers. I really don't have too much to say. I had a great weekend. I went to Stump the Violence. We marched around a few blocks. We talked about how we can better this community and how we can connect with our youth. I feel good about this city right now. I feel good about this city. I feel good about the spirit of change and the spirit of hope that I'm finding in people. I'm someone that drives through the 6th district. I see a lot of issues. I try to report those issues. And sometimes they don't move fast enough for me. So then I report them again. And I CC the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the president and the president of the city council. And I know it takes time. I know it takes time, but I'm gonna ask my district to continue to call me with your concerns.
That's you.
And like I said previously, I answer the phone. I don't care if it's 11 p.m. or 3 a.m. I'm gonna pick up the phone if someone calls me. That's my policy. I want to be able to talk to the residents of the 6th district, and I know we got issues. I just went down Ivy Street before I came to the council meeting today. Grass is definitely high, and I'm just gonna be truthful. I try to talk to these owners first before I reported it to the city. I'm just gonna say that, and some of it is my fault, because if I probably would have reported to the city over a month ago, it probably would be cut by now. But since I tried to always talk to the residents, introduce myself, try to have this this understanding with them, because sometimes, like one of the council people said, sometimes they just don't have the means to cut their grass. And I'm someone that would drop a lawnmower or use lawnmower right there for them. So I try to be patient because I know sometimes it is difficult. So again, I apologize for Ivy Street citizens. I waited 30 days before I actually informed the city of the issue, because I was really trying to handle it outside of getting code enforcement involved. So again, my apologies and good night.
Thank you. I'm Mike McGinnis, representing District 7. I want to thank Delia Sharp and Identify Your Dream Foundation for all the work that went into the 12th annual Stomp Out the Violence rally and march. And I'm really honored that the People's House, Pontiac City Hall, was able to be the place where that gathering of the community happened. I want to make sure District 7 residents know that our East Side Community Meeting is on Monday, June 13th, 7 o'clock p.m., happening at Prospect Missionary Baptist Church at 351 Prospect Street. All are welcome. And This week, the Planning Commission has their monthly meeting on Wednesday, June 1st, and I want to give the community a heads up since there's just a lot of action on the docket. There is a Taco Bell proposed, and they're seeking a special exemption permit that would be on Walton Boulevard, just east of Laurel and Highwood, so pretty close to J.C. Park, if I'm looking at the map correctly. And there is a public hearing because they need a special exemption permit. And there's also a preliminary site plan review. Also, with a public hearing, because they're seeking a special exemption permit and a preliminary site plan review, is a car wash, and that's proposed for Joslyn at 2nd Avenue, on the west side of Joslyn, north of 2nd Avenue. And then there is a medical marijuana facility seeking a preliminary site plan review on Cesar Chavez Avenue, and it's between Northview Court and Kinney Road on the east side of Cesar Chavez. It would be a new construction. All three that I've mentioned so far, the Taco Bell, the car wash, and the facility of BYOP Properties, Cesar Chavez LLC, is new construction. There's also two presentations. One of them is a preliminary site plan review for a concrete batch plant that Crown Enterprises is seeking. That's located in District 7, and I've done some research on what concrete batch plants are, and I'm not a fan at present moment, so I will look forward to all the information. But if you've ever been on Auburn Avenue just east of Opdyke Road in Auburn Hills on the south side of the road, that's, for example, a concrete batch plant, which comes with a lot of byproduct, if you will. So that is a preliminary site plan review, as is the building color of Ottawa Towers and Judson Center at Woodward and Judson Street. They're proposing changing the building color, and so there'll be a proposal for that. And with that, thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you not only at our various budget sessions, but the next regular meeting of the City Council on a week from tonight, June 7th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford and seconded by Councilman Goodman that we adjourn this evening's meeting. Hearing no discussion, roll call and adjournment. Clerk Doyle.
Harrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We stand adjourned at 7:43 p.m. Thank you, and please be safe.